Build a Big Podcast. David Hooper here. Yesterday, I was talking about a friend of mine from Rolling Stone magazine. Talked about podcasting lessons from a rock star. I'm continuing that on this episode. One of the topics I talked about with him in the last discussion that we had was experiences we have had meeting very famous people. Now, if you don't know this, I've got a broadcast radio show. It's called Music Business Radio. Got famous people in there all the time, man. Some of them are cool. Some of them not so cool. One time I had a guy stand up in the middle of the interview. He walked out. And then I followed him. And I took him back to his hotel. And I went right back to the studio. I made a great show out of it. And nobody knew. Because that was the best thing for my audience. I don't mention his name. I don't try to embarrass him. Well, maybe I'd mention his name if you and I met each other. That's actually what this episode is about. This is a huge lesson for podcasters, especially when it comes to live events, especially when it comes to events that are related to what you podcast about. Industry events, maybe it's a podcasting event. We've got a few of them coming up. Are you going to be there? Think about this when you meet people. But this is applicable to everywhere. If somebody walks up to you and they like what you were doing, and if you reach enough people, this will happen to you. Maybe not every day, maybe not every week, but it will happen to you. You owe it to them to acknowledge them. The people who listen to you, the people who listen to me, these are the people who make what we do possible. So let me give you a quick story. This is what I promised on the last episode. I'm at an industry event. I see a guy that is the producer of another artist that I know. Now, both these artists, the producer that I'm talking about, because he's an artist, and also the artist that I knew who was being produced by this guy, they're both well known. They're both established, major label deals, big names. And I'm not intimidated by these guys. And I don't know if that's what this dude was expecting. But I walked up to him. And I'm like, hey, I'm David. I just talked to blank, the artist that he's producing. I'm super excited to hear the new project. She said it was going great. And I talked about how much I liked this artist. And I'd introduced myself. He knew who I was. And I was genuinely interested in this artist that he's working with. Now, maybe this dude was mad because I didn't acknowledge him as the big cheese. Maybe he wanted me to talk about him and his artistic abilities, not his production abilities. But he just looked at me and he was like, okay, great. And he turned around and walked off. I don't think I've ever had that happen like this. And look, I'm not expecting this guy to kiss up to me. I'm expecting, though, to be acknowledged when I walk up to you at an industry event, an industry function, as somebody who is also in the industry. I mean, that's why you're there, right? Are you not there to see other people within the industry? All I want is a little acknowledgement. And that's what your listeners want. And that's what people who are also podcasting want when they see you at podcasting events. Now, it could be that you're tired. You probably are tired if you're at an event for several days. God knows I get tired of these things. About a year ago, I was coming back from Podcast Movement. Man, I passed out on the plane. I mean, I literally dropped to my knees, couldn't see anything. I was in the back of the plane, crawled into the lavatory when I could. And I hear this, hello, sir, are you okay? I mean, that kind of exhaustion was what I was working with. So I get it. I get being exhausted. But if you're going to go out in public where people know you, at least acknowledge them. You don't have to sit around and talk for 20 minutes, but do acknowledge them. These people are listening to you. These are your super fans. And I'm not going to mention this guy's name because that's not the kind of thing that I do. But you can bet in private, I've told a lot of people this story because I was shocked. And you can bet if somebody has a bad experience with you, they will tell a similar story. So consider that with some of these upcoming podcast conferences that are coming up. Consider it everywhere. Podcast Movement, it is coming up in just a few weeks. I've got another one here in Nashville. It's called Rockin' Pod. It's for music podcasters. I'm actually doing an interview with Dave Ellefson from Megadeth. If you're interested in attending that, reach out to me. You need to be reaching out to me anyway, because I've got some cool stuff for you on how to grow your podcast. You can do that at bigpodcast.com. If you want to subscribe and make sure you never miss an episode, bigpodcast.com/subscribe. And if you do see me out at one of these events, feel free to come up. I'm not going to say it's going to be a perfect experience. Sometimes I'm tired. Sometimes I'm not as friendly as I should be. But I'm not going to blow you off. I'm going to be excited to see you. Thank you very much for listening to Build a Big Podcast. Without you, I would not be here talking on this microphone. I appreciate you, and I will see you on the next episode.